Hi guys, thank you for clicking on this video. If you have kids around, please don't watch this video with them. I'm going to talk about the Democrats' plan to legalize drugs and the consequences of that.
At a recent campaign appearance, Pete Buttigieg called for decriminalizing all drugs. Heroin, meth, crack, you name it.
Incarceration should not even be a response to drug possession.
Is that across the board? So if it's meth or coke or ecstasy, any drugs, if it's possession, incarceration isn't.
That's right.
Buttigieg isn't the only one. Andrew Yang is calling for the same.
You want to decriminalize the possession and use of small amounts of opioids, including heroin. How would that solve the crisis?
That's exactly right. So we need to decriminalize opiates for personal use. We have to let the country know this is not a personal failing. This was a systemic government failing. And then we need to open up safe consumption and safe injection sites around the country because they save lives.
Did you hear that last part? Yang wants to open up safe injection sites. This is a place where addicts can go to shoot up under the supervision of medical personnel to make sure they do it correctly. This is what it looks like on the inside. You can see they have all their works out. You show up. It's like a buffet for doing drugs. You have tourniquets, wipes, pick out the needle of your choice. They provide you with everything. And then you pick out a booth, and then you shoot up. That's what it looks like on the inside. This is what it looks like on the outside. This is what our masked children get to see on their way to school. You all know Cori Bush, the senator from St. Louis. She was recently called out for defunding your police, but then hiring off-duty cops to protect her.
You faced some criticism in recent weeks over your push to defund the police. The campaign records show that you spent roughly $70,000 on private security, and some critics say that move is hypocritical. What's your response to those critics?
And who do you think she blamed for this?
I have private security because the white supremacist, racist narrative that they drive into this country, the fact that they don't care that this black woman that has put her life on the line, they can't match my energy, first of all. This black woman who puts her life on the line, they don't care that I could be taken out of here. They actually probably are okay with that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police.
Cori Bush joined forces with Democrat Bonnie Watson to introduce legislation called the Drug Policy Reform Act.
Pushed tonight to decriminalize drugs by Missouri Congresswoman Cori Bush, the Democrat unveiling legislation today that would treat illicit drug use with health-centered approaches.
So today, we are stepping up and speaking out to say we can do better. We can create a world, a more just and a more better world. We can do away with punitive systems of violence and destruction and replace them with systems of care, systems of support, systems rooted in racial equity and justice.
In addition to decriminalization, the Drug Policy Reform Act would erase existing records, providing opportunities for resentencing in federal drug convictions. A court could waive the fines if the person is unable to pay.
The Democrats are going to say that they're only interested in decriminalizing drugs for personal use. We know that's not true because on page 1 of their summary, they want to eliminate all federal drug agencies, including the DEA. For those who aren't familiar with the DEA, they are the small group of underpaid men and women who are brave enough to go after the drug cartels. Did you ever see some of the seizures they make? Look at the weapons they seized. Does this look like an organization who's going to go after addicts shooting up in alleyways? They don't care about the user. Look at the money. These are not small-time dealers that they go after. This is 21 tons of cocaine the DEA seized. It was worth $6 billion. Why would the Democrats want to defund the DEA? Because they don't want to impede the flow of narcotics to their voters. By the way, this is just one of the bills the Democrats introduced to destroy our country. Have you ever heard of the Breathe Act? It was introduced by Democrats Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley. I discussed it in another video, but I'll tell you just 2 of the things that act does. It abolishes all prisons and legalizes human sex trafficking. That's today's Democrat Party. Ask an ER doctor or an ER nurse or a paramedic what drugs do to a community. Ask an addiction counselor how it ruins families. Ask an addict what it does to their bodies. These are some before and after photos of what drug use does to a person's body. Look at the difference. This girl actually got clean. Look at the difference between using and not using. Look at this, only 1 year. You see the sores? I don't even have words for this. This one's been using meth. Look at this. They look like zombies. 3 years on meth. 2.5 years. A year and a half. This, I think, is the worst. It almost looks fake. 5 years on meth. You don't need words for that picture. The addiction to these drugs is so strong that sometimes addicts can't even wait to get home to shoot up. Do you remember this photo? A mom and dad in the front seat, got their drugs, pulled over, shot up. Their kid was in the back seat. It turns out this is pretty common.
Passed out at a gas station in their SUV with 2 babies in the back seat.
These two are nodded out, and they got 2 little kids in the back of the car.
Sarasota deputies tell me in the driver's seat is William Ballard. Next to him, Delaney Chrissinger, both of Manatee County. In the back, in car seats, 2 girls, 18 months and 5 months old. Security video shows the couple had pulled in hours earlier.
Those 2 little kids were stuck in their car seat for 2 hours while mom and dad were passed out. Some addicts make this a habit and do it every week.
For the second time since Friday, William and Lindsay Lauer were arrested and jailed for allegedly committing the same crime. Monday night, they were found in the parking lot of the Get-Go on the south side, unresponsive, with a 4-year-old boy in the back seat. 4 days ago, Bethel Park police arrested the same couple on the same charges. The child was turned over to a grandparent. By Saturday, they were released on bond, only to be arrested again on Monday. The young child in the backseat told police, quote, "I was trying to wake them up by shaking their head, but they wouldn't get up. I haven't eaten and I'm hungry."
Some addicts can't even wait until they put the car in park to shoot up.
New at 10, disturbing video shows an overdosed driver doing circles in the Summiton Walmart parking lot with a child inside that car. Now, police were able to get the vehicle stopped before anyone was hurt.
Police found paraphernalia in a substance they believe is heroin.
I want to tell you a quick story. I lived in a building with someone above me. I won't say his name. He was huge. He was like 6'7", big, strong guy. He moved out, and word was that he started using. A short while later, I was pumping gas, and I hear someone screaming, "Paulie, Paulie." I'm like, oh my God, who is this guy? I didn't recognize him. As he got close to me, I realized who he was. It was so obvious that he was using. We didn't make small talk. His face looked like some of those pictures I just showed you. And I told him, I don't have any cash. I'm pumping gas, on my card. And he said, "Nah, that's all right, Paulie. I don't need any money, but those French fries in the back seat look good." I said, those aren't from today. Those are yesterday's. We were outside near a Boston market. I said, "Let me just get you something." He said, No, just let me take these. And he ate cold French fries. And again, it was so obvious that he was using. He didn't even want to pretend that I didn't know. And he told me something I keep thinking about to this day. He said, "Paulie, this shit calls you, Paulie. It calls for you in the middle of the night. 3, 4 in the morning in the middle of a snowstorm. I'm roaming the streets looking to get high." He said, "I can't even tell you the things I've done." That's how strong this addiction is. I never saw him again. I don't know what happened. But it doesn't matter where you are or who you're with or what you're doing. You just want to get high.
Someone inside the Family Dollar store in Lawrence recorded the scene in the toy aisle Sunday morning while bystanders called 911. Police say a mother from Salem overdosed. Her 2-year-old daughter, dressed in footy pajamas, tugs on her arm and cries out, trying to wake up her mother.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, obviously, to watch that video.
The Lawrence police chief says he's disturbed no one comforted the child or checked on the mother. First responders got there in time to administer 2 doses of Narcan. The mother survived. Police say they found drug paraphernalia in the diaper bag.
In these examples, the addicts got high outdoors. Thankfully, people were in the area and alerted police. But what happens behind closed doors when those addicts are home with their children and they shoot up?
The death of a 5-month-old girl who starved after her parents died of drug overdoses has been ruled a homicide. The Johnstown Police Department says officers found 3 bodies in the house just days before Christmas. 27-year-old Jason Chambers and 19-year-old Chelsea Cardaro had been dead for a week, and their baby, Summer Chambers, had likely died 3 or 4 days later, according to the coroner. Authorities say child services had been called to the home after police had to revive Jason Chambers with Narcan in November. A month later, with no one around to revive them, the drug not only took their lives, but the life of their baby.
Baby starved. Did you ever hear of Tiffany Spears? This is Tiffany with her 15-month-old son, Nicholas.
Very, very sad story, Erica. Today, the medical examiner's office confirms 15-month-old Nicholas Crowder died of starvation and dehydration. His death has been ruled accidental. Nicholas and his mother, Tiffany Spears, were both found dead inside their Portland home in February. According to Portland police, Spears died of a drug overdose, and she was dead for several days before investigators arrived. Spears also had a 3-year-old who was inside the home when officers arrived, but that child was not injured.
The 3-year-old survived, but 15-month-old Nicholas was found dead, restrained in his car seat. Mom couldn't even wait to unbuckle her child before she got high. And the 3-year-old brother did try unsuccessfully to unbuckle him, and he also tried feeding him. Cops found eggshells on little Nicholas's face and in the car seat. Are you sure you want to legalize drugs, Corey? You want more children to end up like this? I'll tell you another story about something I saw at work. We were in the northern part of Central Park. We had a lot of complaints of people using drugs in that area. We get to the scene. There are 2 addicts, a guy and a girl. She's on her knees. She's blowing them. I'll just say it. We separated them. I talked to the girl. She looked just like one of those girls in those photos. Sores all over her face, rotting teeth. And I noticed that she was hiding something in her jacket. She had a leather jacket that was zippered closed. So finally I said to her, "What are you hiding? Open your jacket." And she said, "What am I hiding? I'm pregnant, sir." She was 9 months pregnant. Didn't know who the father was. Didn't follow up with medical care. Didn't care. She didn't want our help. She was living on the street. All she wanted to do was get high. And all I kept thinking about was her baby. Is it unreasonable to assume that if the mother's an addict, the child can not only be born addicted to drugs, but also go through withdrawal?
To the trained ear, the high-pitched cry of this 3-week-old baby girl is a sign that something isn't right. Nurse Heather Mishlick at East Tennessee Children's Hospital is taking care of her.
If you just kind of walked by a baby and you didn't know what was going on, those would be the things that popped out to you the most. Like, why is that baby crying so loud? Why is that baby shaking?
generally they like the answer is the infant is going through withdrawal from prescription opioids that her mother took while pregnant, leading to a condition called neonatal abstinence syndrome, or NAS.
Their temperatures are high, their extremities are really stiff, there may have been feeding problems.
The treatment for some of these newborns is heartbreaking.
So I'm gonna pick him up. NAS babies need a lot of skin-to-skin contact to be soothed and are kept in dimly lit rooms to prevent overstimulation. When that isn't enough, which was the case for Katie's daughter, the babies are actually given a low dosage of an opioid like morphine to wean them off the dependence they developed in utero from their mothers.
Yeah, she's doing a lot better. She don't have the tremors like she did or nothing. She's not nearly as fussy.
I know this video is depressing, but if you're supporting a party who wants to decriminalize hard drugs, you need to know what effect that has on our society. And we cannot have this conversation without mentioning the correlation between drug abuse and child abuse. According to the National Center on Substance Abuse and Child Welfare, more than 70% of all child abuse happens because parents are addicts. I can tell you another quick story of something I witnessed as a cop. I was a rookie cop. As a rookie cop, you really don't say much. They just bring you to these jobs to observe. And I was leaning on this door jamb. They had this woman handcuffed, and a senior cop taps me on the shoulder and says, "Get off the door jamb." So I get off and I look and I see there's a line of roaches going up the door jamb across the ceiling, and they were all going into the corner of the room into a light fixture. It was a pull chain light fixture, and between the fixture and the light bulb, there were like 4 or 5 extension cords plugged in, going to different crack rooms where people would go and get high. You guys who've been in crack houses, you know what I'm talking about. And on the bottom, in the corner, directly below this light fixture where most of the roaches were falling, was a dirty mattress. And they had this lady in handcuffs, and I heard her say, 1 bag for blowjobs, 2 bags for sex. I was probably 22 years old. And I was like, she's pimping herself out for crack? What normal person would even be found in that building, let alone having sex with this addict who looked like she was almost dead? And then just as I started feeling like this is insane, I heard someone say, the victim is at the hospital. And I learned that mom wasn't pimping herself out. She was pimping out her 9-year-old daughter. 1 bag of crack for oral sex, 2 bags for intercourse. That's what drugs do to a society. That's what drugs do. That didn't make the news. It wasn't in the papers, just the cops on the scene were there. I kept thinking about the kid. I never met the kid. The kid was removed to the hospital. But that didn't make the papers. Here's one that did. Do you recognize this girl? This is 4-year-old Marcella Pierce. She was beaten and starved to death by her mother, Carlotta. Cops found Marcella tied to her SpongeBob bed with her jump rope. She had 60 adult doses of Claritin and 30 adult doses of Benadryl. You know what else the ME found in this little girl's stomach? 1 single kernel of corn. Marcella weighed just 18 pounds at the time of her death, half of what she should have weighed. You know why her mother tied her to the bed and gave her the Benadryl? So she can get high. She's an addict. In fact, Marcella's death occurred after ACS became involved with the family. Do you know why ACS became involved? Because 10 months earlier, Carlotta gave birth to a baby boy who was born an addict. When Marcella was beaten, it was witnessed by her 5-year-old brother, Timel. He would sneak her food. That's why they found the kernel of corn. He would sneak food, this 5-year-old would sneak food off of his plate and give it to his sister who was tied up in the other room. Tymel insisted on bringing his little sister food at her wake, telling his foster mom, quote, "I hope she gets enough food and water in heaven." This is what drugs do. And the Democrats want to make it legal. Why would the Democrats want more of their fellow Americans hooked on this poison? In my opinion, it's because of power. The Democrats have given up on your vote. They're not even asking for it anymore. It is not a coincidence that while the Democrats are releasing thousands of felons from prison under the guise of COVID, they're also passing legislation to allow felons to have the right to vote. Who cares about the impact on society, right? The Democrats just want to stay in power. If you're an addict and you're hooked on this, all you want to do is get high. And if the Democrats are putting up safe injection sites all over the city and allowing you to shoot up in front of police without any fear of being arrested, wouldn't you keep them in office? The Democrats have become the drug dealer, and these addicts are now their customers. And dealers know that once they get you hooked, they own you. You will do anything to get high, including selling your own children. You don't have to take my word for it. There are other cases. Have you ever heard of Delana Nicholas? You know what she did? She pimped out her 6-year-old daughter to 3 separate men. Here they are. They were charged with aggravated sexual battery, subdivision 2, which means not only did they penetrate this child, but they may have used objects to do so. In either case, you can't be charged with this unless you cause injury to the child's sex organs. And they did. Look at what it says in parentheses, if you have the stomach. Here's another one. April Cochran. She was sentenced to 51 years in jail for trafficking her daughter. She allowed her child to be raped, sodomized, and beaten, and she let her drug dealer videotape it. Here's the dealer. Shendell Willingham. You want to go one more? Morgan Summerlin. Morgan allowed her 2 daughters, aged 5 and 6, to be raped repeatedly by several men, including one of them who was 78 years old. Morgan then used the money to go out and buy drugs. This last one I'll give you is the most disgusting. This disgusting animal, Michelle Mayer of Wisconsin, she allowed 2 of her children to be raped, ages 6 and 9. Mom also allowed them to be videotaped. And the worst part, if there is a worst part, is she would inject the children with meth so they would stay awake longer. She would inject the kids with meth so they would stay awake longer, because the longer the sexual assault lasts and the longer they're raped, the more money this piece of shit would get. So those are just a few of the stories of how drugs ruin people's lives. And the Democrats are willing to sacrifice more innocent lives just to stay in power. And remember, they're going to say, we don't care about drug dealers. We're only concerned about personal consumption. But how do you arrest a drug dealer for selling something that is no longer illegal to possess? I realize there's an argument to be made that says taking an addict and putting him directly in prison doesn't really benefit anyone. But the Democrats are not pushing for mandatory treatment programs. They're pushing to decriminalize this stuff. And while going to prison doesn't necessarily mean you'll come out clean, certainly the fear of prison may keep some people from trying it in the first place. But if the Democrats decriminalize it, if you're allowed to shoot up in front of police, if you have safe injection sites all over the city, and they reduce the stigma like the Democrats are trying to do, you will have more first-time users. And the more people who try it for the first time will get hooked. And the Democrats are okay with that. Addicts, felons, and illegal aliens. now make up the Democrat voter base. I know it's sad to hear. I know it's disgusting, but it's true. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. I know it wasn't easy. I know it was hard to hear and see some of these images. Please share this video with other people. The more people that know what the Democrats are up to and how they're destroying our country, the more likely we can vote them out of office.